Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome back to my channel of inspiring stories. Like always, I am back with another story to inspire you, to transform you, to change your life in some positive way, to give you hope, to let you know that there is help always there. You just have to reach out. Guys, today I am here with a young man who is on board to share his story with us. And I came across him on Facebook, and my heart was touched after reading his story. And I reached out to him, and I feel honored that he accepted my invite, and he is here right now to share his story and let you all know who are suffering out there that there is so much hope and that you do not need to be alone in this. So without any further delay, let me bring him in and let's start our conversation. And we're going live. I hope you're all doing great. I am just waiting to connect with him. And what happened there? Okay, let me send the request again.
Hello. How's it going?
There he is.
I'm
Hi
very
there.
well. It's a magnificent day
Good. How
here
about
in the
yourself?
UK, and many beautiful things going on. Yeah, so I'm pumped. How's it going your side?
Is it? Oh, it's going great. We had really nice weather today. It was not that hot, so it's going great. So before we dive into our conversation and get involved with each other, let's just have a little
Sure. So
introduction about yourself for
I
people
am
who do
from
not know you
London
on
in the
our
UK.
side.
I'm an actor and I'm an author, and I also co-run a charity called We Rescue Kids. And what our vision is and what we do is we help sexually abused children, and we provide them with therapy to help them heal those wounds and to positively move forward. And then, if depending on the age, provide them with the right foster family.
All right. Uh, so let's start with that. What inspired you to
It's because of
embark
my
on
story.
this to help
So when I was
abused
10 years
children?
old, I was sexually abused by my granddad multiple times for over a year and a half.
Okay.
And it stopped when I was about 11 years old because my stepmom caught it happening. And because she caught it happening, thank God, it never escalated, and they stopped me from going around to my nan and my step granddad's house. Then my dad told me to keep quiet on the story. So I stayed in silence for about 12 years. Now, growing up and throughout my teenager years, it was okay.
Up. Okay,
Am I
you're
back?
back.
Ah, where did I
Yes,
go?
you were like gone
um,
for a few. Yes, you're
so,
back.
so yeah, I was,
Uh, so I lost you where you said that your sorry. I lost you where you said that your stepmom um got your granddad, and that's where it
okay.
stopped. And after
So,
that, I lost you. Then
so
it was just
she caught it
blah blah
happening,
blah.
so it stopped. And then my dad told me to keep a lid on it, not go out and share my story with people at school, with friends and family, because he didn't want a black cloud over the family, right? So at that age, I lacked the emotional maturity, and I didn't really know what was going on to that level. So I never really, I was okay about it. So then I grew up through school, and I was okay. I didn't really see a problem. It was only when I was 16, 17 years old, I moved to a new location. And then I didn't want to be that same identity. And this is the thing, when people of abuse are living in silence, they form this identity, right, of who they think they are. And this identity of who they think they are is this person who is abused, right? The abuse that they went through becomes their entire story, becomes their life, it becomes their identity, without realizing that they have a choice to create their own identity, to create their own character per se. So I moved to this new location. I became this new character, so to speak, right? Because growing up in London, because my identity was being this boy who was abused by his step granddad, I was a virgin, so I didn't know how to speak to girls. I wasn't confident around male friends. I was an introvert. I didn't like people really looking at me, but in a way of being like center of attention. But I didn't like those things about me, right? Because it impacted different areas of my life. Now, when I moved location, I was like, I'm going to become somebody who's the opposite of that, right? I'm going to become somebody who is good with the girls, is good in social circles. I created this character that was false, and then I faked it until I made it. But then I realized that what I was actually doing was I was wearing masks, and the more masks that you're wearing, then the deeper and deeper you're pushing your true authentic self, that inner child, further and further away until you can't see that anymore. And then it was only when
And I wanted to stop. Sorry, but I want you to stop you then and ask you that when you moved, did you move because
move in
you
what
were
way?
ready
Location.
to take on your new identity, or the move
No,
just
so when I
happened for
was
you?
16, 17, I was still living at my parents' house. So they
Yeah, the
sold
location.
my nan's house because she passed away. And with the money from that house, we moved out of London to Berkshire to get a bigger house for
Okay.
the amount of money, right? Because it's expensive in London. So we moved because of that.
So okay. So do you think that having that change of
Yes,
location
because I didn't know
brought that
anybody in this new
awakening for
location.
you?
So in a way, it was like a fresh start, right? Because I was like, I can go to this new college because I'm an actor, so I was studying performing arts. I can go
Okay.
to this new
Right.
college. Nobody knows me there, so I can be anyone I want. And that was like a new playing ground for me,
Right.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. Okay. Okay. So what happened then? So when you realized that you didn't want to have, and I love the way you stated that people were abused, and I know that myself, is that when you're abused, you form this false
Mm.
identity around yourself, and you believe that you are that person, till you actually awaken to realize that you're actually not what the abuser was defining you as. So it's like a light shed moment when you realize that reality, when it really strikes you. So I really like the way you put it out there as well. So tell me, so when you realize that you didn't want to live anymore, or hide anymore behind masks, what was the first step you took towards
So
reaching
I
out,
only
or
gained the
what
awareness
what did
that,
you do
so
then?
this whole thing, when I created this character, when I moved location, it was only when Lewis Howes brought out this book. Do you know Lewis Howes and his book Mask
Mm,
and Masculinity? No, okay. So he brought out this book about how there's all these different
okay,
masks
I,
that
I
you
don't know
can
about
wear,
it.
right? You got the athletic
Okay.
mask, you got the alpha male mask, the mask that you put on when you're with males, the mask you put on when you're
Okay.
around females, to try and heighten these sides of your personality. Now, when he brought out this book, because he was abused as a child, and he was talking about all these masks that he would wear in front of people and in different environments. That's when I realized that what I was doing had a label, right? It was actually something that other people
Mm,
that had done, and it was a problem. It wasn't something that was good. So
mm,
when I realized that, I was like, okay, I need to take this mask off today. How do I do that? Well, I do that by speaking out what I've just
mm,
experienced to somebody. Now, I was dating somebody at the time, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna tell my girlfriend
mm.
about these masks, and I'm gonna tell her about the
Okay.
abuse. And that was the first time I ever broke my silence, and
Mm,
that was the first time I felt so vulnerable. You know, I might as well have been walking the streets stark naked, because that's exactly how it felt. And that was when I broke my
mm,
silence, and that was when I realized, because of how she responded, which was positively, which
mm,
was warming with open arms. That's when I realized, wow,
mm,
because the 12 years I've been living in silence,
mm,
I've been projecting this worldview that people would deny me once I share my story. But then I realized that
mm,
external world is just a reflection of our internal world, because the external world was actually full of people just like my
mm,
girlfriend at the time, who accepted me with open arms to my story. So then that allowed me to then go on and tell the next person, then the next person, then the next person.
mm. Interesting. Wow. Yeah. And that's how it is always when you're abused, and when you initially break that silence, there's that
Yeah.
uh tension around you, that you're not sure how people are going to react. And when you receive that warmth, and when you receive that, it's okay. And it's amazing, because when you actually speak your story, a lot of people who've been through the same thing reach out, they pour to you, towards you. I've been through this, I've been through this. It's really overwhelming, and it's really empowering at the same time to know that, yeah, okay, it happened to
Yeah.
me, but there's so many out there who suffered or who are still suffering. I wanted to just step back a little bit and just talk a little bit about your life from the age from 11 to 16. So when it stopped, how did you process that, or did you just suppress it and never thought about it and life just went on? Or how was that gap from the
Mm.
time from 11 till
To begin
16 where
with,
you
it
actually were
was
like, okay,
fine,
I'm going to speak my
as
truth?
in from the point of I still lacked the emotional maturity. 16 years ago,
Okay.
sexual abuse wasn't a conversational topic. It wasn't on the news. It wasn't in the newspapers. So I, even though it stopped, I was still like, well, Dad, why are you stopping me from going around there?
Mm,
I still didn't understand what my step granddad was doing to me to put him in prison. That's how bad it was, right? So I still didn't understand that. So, but it was as the years went on,
mm,
like there was an
mm,
incident where
mm,
I was in
mm,
school and was in English, and our teacher gave us a task to do. And she goes, right, at the start of the lesson, she goes, I'm going to give you all a piece of paper. I want you guys to test your storytelling skills, and I want you to write down a short story. Whatever story you want, whatever comes to mind, there's no limits, right? Write your story. Now, at the end of the lesson, we give the pieces of paper in. For some unbeknown reason, I decided to write a story around my step granddad abusing me. I have no idea why. Okay, I don't remember doing that. But that when I handed it in, it got the attention
okay.
of the teacher, and then that is what then led to me having a school counselor. So I'd have a school counselor every single week during school, and she was also a therapist outside of school because there was sometimes where I'd go and see her in her offices in London. So I had that throughout school, and it wasn't like every single week I'd go and talk to her about the abuse. She treaded very, very lightly on that topic, and I was just talking about everything and anything. And then it was when I was 14, 15, 16, it started to become more apparent in the news, more
Mm,
apparent in the newspapers. I would hear about it from person X, Y, and Z. And then I was forced to confront my story because I could no longer just ignore it because it started to become a hot topic. So I was like, okay, it is a bad thing. And then when I was like, okay, it is a bad thing, then what
mm,
happened? The inner demons, that inner dialogue started to
mm,
grow, started to get louder. And I was like, dude, you went through that for a year and a half. You must have enjoyed it. You must have liked it, right? You know you're to blame about it. You know if you speak out, no one's going to believe you. So people are going to laugh at you. And then those comments, which is what keeps people in silence and is what keeps them and stays them there for the rest of their life. That's exactly what happened to me until, as we then discovered now,
mm,
when I was about 21 is when I broke my silence.
mm. Wow, interesting. And when you broke your silence and you got the support and
Yeah.
all that, and I'm sure you felt empowered and liberated, and tons of weight came off your shoulder. But how did you feel about that? Because then you were a child, and then at that point your father told you this, and you stuck with that, right? Now
Mm-hmm.
you were an adult, telling everybody your story. Did you feel angry? Did you feel frustrated? What did you feel towards your father when you reflected on it and your father told you that no,
Yeah.
no, no, we're not going to talk about it, or just never talk about it, and
The reflection on my father came when wasn't too long after I broke my silence properly and I shared my video onto Facebook because I told my girlfriend at the time that was one person. Then the next time I spoke about it was to four people in a closed environment. I went to a business mastermind event. Then from the drive home from there, I was like, I'm feeling pumped to start sharing my story more. I was like, but I don't want to tell friend A, friend B, family member C, family member D. I was like, I don't want to be
Mm,
repeating this story. Now it's fine, but then it was still raw. I don't want to be repeating the story. So how can I just say it once and everybody knows?
mm,
I was like, well, that's a video, put it onto Facebook.
mm,
Now,
mm.
it was when I done that, it was when then my family found out that when my stepmom
Okay.
caught it happening and then they questioned me, I only told them that that time where it happened was the only time that it happened. They didn't know about the year and a half prior to that, right? And also, coupled with that, that's when I found out from a family
Mm,
member that my
mm,
dad was also a victim of abuse too from the same man. So when it came to knowing about that, it made sense why my dad was an alcoholic, and it made sense why he had a heart attack in 2017 at the age of 48. It made sense why he asked me to keep it quiet because he was living in silence, because he didn't tell anybody. And he used alcohol to suppress those feelings. He used alcohol as a way to numb down the demons in his head and to fight them away. You know? So
Absolutely.
in regards to the reflection on my dad and his part in it,
Right.
sure, there was a time where I wasn't angry, but I was very I wanted to ask a lot of questions in regards to, well, dad, if you was abused by him and you knew he was capable of that, why would you allow me around the house? Why would you allow me to stay over there overnight? Right? If you knew what he was capable of. But then the thing is, there's many different answers to that. And my dad died way before I even that even became something in my mind to ask, right? So he's not around for me to ask that to. That's okay. I thank you. But you know, I truly believe that
I'm sorry to hear that.
his death is a key component to the story that I shared today, right? Because he's a victim of abuse that lived and that died in silence, and it was a silence that killed him, right? So, which is why very much my message is breaking the silence. So, not because there's two paths in my story in regards to, you can be someone like my step granddad who was abused growing up in the Catholic Church system. He suppressed that. He never spoke out. He lived in silence, and he inflicted the pain that was inflicted onto him onto other people by sexually abusing them. Me, my dad, and other family members being included. And then you have someone like my dad who was a victim. He then became an alcoholic. He never inflicted the pain onto others, but he inflicted that pain onto himself, right? He self-sabotaged. And I was like, it's not happening. I'm breaking this generational cycle because I'm not passing that shit onto my kids, right? I'm going to break the cycle so that doesn't happen. And it's about helping as many people as I can to understand the message and to tell them, to show them that they have a choice to not follow that path, and they can follow the path of breaking that silence.
Absolutely, absolutely, and lots of praise for those like your father is not in this world, and for so many of those who suffered in silence and who've left this world. And I want to reach out and thank you once again for coming forward and sharing your story and being a voice of so many voiceless souls out there. And it really makes me emotional right now because it shows me the amount of pain a person goes through who's being abused in different ways, and how it can affect you. Either you carry on that abuse, giving it to others, or you suppress it and you die with it. And in both cases, it's just horrible. So thank you for being that person for so many out there who are listening to you right now and who will listen to this podcast later. Thank you for being that voice. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for giving hope to so many out there who are feeling hopeless at that time, right at this time even, and not having the confidence to speak up due to whatever reasons they might have. Um, let's talk about heading towards your book. When did you decide on writing that,
Sure. So
and talk
I
about
always
that,
knew I
when
wanted
it's
to write a
available and
book, but
all
I didn't
that
know
for
what the
the
book was going to
audience
be
as well.
about. Now, the charity came first. So there's me and there's two other co-founders of the charity. So the charity came first, and then in lockdown last year, I was 3 episodes into the Jeffrey Epstein Netflix documentary, and I was watching the victims of sexual abuse on there and how they were speaking out, sharing a story around how they lived in silence for so many years because this powerful billionaire connected man, they couldn't possibly come out and speak against him because this one female individual who's a nobody cannot compare to this huge figure, right? I was like, I need to get my book out there. I need to get it out there. So it was that pushed me into writing the book. And it took me about a month to write the book. But then it's crazy because I had this vision, right? That when I get the book, it's going to go through a publishing house. I'm going to have a lot of help in regards to publishing it and to getting it out there. Now, that didn't necessarily work because I didn't have the funds to make all that happen. So I sat on a book for nearly a year until about 5 weeks ago. I'm sitting in my house. I'm like, why is the book not out there yet? It's because I'm a perfectionist. And I was like, no, you're not a perfectionist, Perry. You just have insecurities, right? That's what perfectionism is. You're insecure about that project, about that something that you want to put out there. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get the book out there. I'm going to design the book myself. I'm going to self-publish it. I'm going to put it onto Amazon. And if the universe is like, Perry, you're meant to be doing this, this is meant to be your path, then the universe will allow that to be pushed out there and people to see it. And now 5 weeks later, it got to #1 on Amazon in sexual abuse and mental health. And it's just blown everything up. It's opened the door to endless possibilities and opportunities because of this book, which is awesome. So the book is available on Amazon. This is what it looks like. It looks just like that. It's available on every Amazon store going. It's called Breaking the Silence: Stories from Survivors of Sexual Abuse.
Could you share it just for a few more seconds on the screen so people can just view? Guys, that's the book. It's available on Amazon. It says Breaking the Silence. You can grab your copy right now over there. I did see that before coming on the podcast. And you spoke about that you started your fundraising before the book. The book just came 5 weeks ago. Let's talk about the fundraising. How did that?
Sure. So there's already a woman named Juliet Tanger, and she's from the United States. She'd already started the ball rolling on a charity. She grew up in a foster care home. Now, this foster care home ran a sex trafficking ring of the children inside this home. So Juliet became part of this sex trafficking ring. She would be tortured. She would be raped. She would have to hold down the other children inside the house. So they were tortured and they were raped and they were threatened with their lives if they didn't do it. And she still got scars on her body to this day because of it. So she was like, I want to help create a charity to help sort of wash out these terrible foster homes and replace them with ones that are actually meant to be providing hope, family, and a safe place for these children. So she already started the ball slowly rolling on this charity. Now, we've been connected for years, and she knew what I was doing with my message. And then we basically just made this decision to join forces on this charity. So it's currently registered in the United States. As soon as possible, I'll be bringing it over to the UK so I can help the children over here in the UK. Now, what we've got going at the moment is a campaign on when you can sponsor a child. So you can either just donate any amount one-off, or you can sponsor a whole child, which would be $300 to $400 a month, right? And what you're paying for is this child who is a victim of sexual abuse, and you're paying for them to have therapy every single month for 12 months with one of our licensed therapists, and you'll get constant updates from the therapist on how this child is doing and how they're recovering.
Okay,
where did I cut off? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, you did. So
okay, so or you can
$300,
sponsor a whole child, as in like one child to yourself, which should be about $300 to $400 a month. And what you're paying for is for this child to have therapy every single month for 12 months with one of our licensed therapists, and you'll get constant updates from this therapist about how this child is doing that you're sponsoring. So that's what we're currently doing, which is awesome. We're getting sponsorships. We're holding a charity fundraising event very soon too, which is amazing.
Okay, and on this fundraising, do you have like a platform, like a social platform where people could reach out?
Sure. We have an Instagram page called We Rescue Kids.
So
WRK for short is what we're known as, but it's We Rescue Kids on Instagram, or our website is werescuekids.org. So if you do have questions, if you want to volunteer, if you want to donate, then you can either reach out to us on Instagram or head over to our website.
All right, guys. So you heard him. Podcast going to be available on my page. He's already tagged. I'll tag him again. You can reach out if you have any questions regarding his fundraising, regarding his book, anything. What message do you want to share with people who are listening, who are not just being sexually abused, but generally being in any abusive relationship or any abusive dynamic? What kind of message do you want to give? Because I think that
to answer that in the best way,
to hear that from you,
I want to quickly mention something about the book. So the book is split into 3 parts. Part 1 of the book is my story, Breaking My Silence. Part 2 of the book, there's 14 stories in there of other victims of sexual abuse. Half of them are named, half of them are unnamed. And there's a page at the end of part 2 called Your Story. So the person who is reading the book, if they're living in silence, all they have to do is grab a pen write their story into the book, and they become the 15th survivor, right? And then in part 3 of the book is called Your Story, which gives you tips, questions, exercises to help you come to a place where you can break your silence. Now, to answer your question, and by the way, all profits from the book goes to charity. So if you buy a book from Amazon, the profit from that book is going directly into our current campaign with the charity of sponsoring a child. So I just want to say that too. Now, in answer to your question, what I can say is that there's not just one way to break your silence, right? So somebody may be like, okay, Perry, you spoke to people, you put a video out on Facebook to break your silence. I'm not ready for that. And that's okay. I'm not telling you that you have to do that, because this is what you should understand, is that me talking right now, this is an expression. I'm verbally expressing, but there's different ways that you can express, right? So, and I'll give you a couple of examples. Putting on some punching gloves, right? Absolutely. And hitting a punching bag whilst you're thinking about what you've gone through, because it's emotions, right? Body Keeps a Score, okay? And that's a really amazing book, Body Keeps a Score. So expressing this story that you have onto this punching bag is you, in a way, breaking your silence, but just to yourself. Those emotions, you're unlocking that cage, right? Another example is, you know how sometimes we might see a painting and to us, it looks like they've just splattered paint onto this canvas, right? And it just looks like a splatter of paint. To some people, they're like, what on earth is this? Like, why is this $1.2 million, right? What is this? It just looks like paint splattered. I could have done that. But what we don't know is that artist has just broken their silence after 10 years, and then throwing that paint onto that canvas is then breaking their silence, right? So it's about knocking over that first domino. It's about you telling yourself in the mirror. It's about you writing it down in your journal, writing it in the book. And then 10 steps, 100 steps down the line, then you can come to a place of telling a family member, telling a friend, telling a therapist, okay? Sometimes you don't climb Mount Everest in step 1. You got to go through all of the steps before you can climb it. So that's what I recommend for people living in silence, is to take those very, very small steps and then stack them and then stack them. And then Absolutely. You'll be in a much better place to actually fully break your silence verbally, if that's something you wish to do.
Definitely, I that totally resonates with me, and I totally understand that, because I was in few years ago, I was in a place where I was in a toxic marriage, and for me, coming forward and sharing my story was like I wasn't ready for it, and I thought I would be judged, I would be put down with the society I was living in, and like you said, I wasn't ready. I had the platform, I had people connecting with me, but I didn't have my own story to tell them. So they were like, "You're doing this, but you've not been through it." And I was like, "Yeah, I've not," because for me, I wasn't ready. I was not ready to put myself out there and go live and speak to 1 million people or 10 people. I wasn't ready. I took my time, and like you said, for me, it was just journaling it, just processing it on my own, till actually one day I woke up and I was like, you know what? It's about time I told my story, because why won't I? And it was really liberating, because it helped me heal a part of myself, but it connected me with, like, I call it my tribe, because it was just phenomenal. The feeling was phenomenal. I was there, I was reaching out, people were reaching out. So guys, like he said, you got to find your own way of breaking your silence. There's no written formula. Everybody's going to work their way through that. And if you are right now suffering, reach out, whoever you trust, reach out to them, connect with them. And we're sending you so much love. Thank you so much, Perry, for coming forward, giving me the time and sharing your story. I know, guys, he's amazing. I reached out to him just once. I don't know him. I read his story. I reached out and said, "Hey, I read your story. Would you come on my podcast and share it?" And he instantaneously hopped on and he said, "Yes, I will." And that was so amazing. So really, thank you so much. There's so many people right now listening here who are suffering and who need that. So truly, I'm really thankful for you for coming forward and giving me this opportunity through my platform. I'm sending you so much love. I'm so proud of you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care, all of you. We are out. Bye. Bye bye.